Hey, Nelson, alcoholic addict. That's not my real name. That is a fake name that I use to throw off hackers who monitor my computer access at all times. Just kidding. I'm not that important. That's a pen name that I use for my Substack newsletter. Somebody asked me recently why I don't drink non alcoholic beer. And I thought about it. There are two main reasons, one of which is obvious and the other one not so much, but it's worth thinking about. The obvious reason is it's my understanding that most non-alcoholic beers have some alcohol in them. It's very trace amounts, but it's some. That's my understanding. I need to be a zero alcohol person, like no chance of alcohol getting into my system. That's my mantra. It has to be. That's the case for me. If there can be negative alcohol and stuff, like minus 1% alcohol, like that's what I should be signing up for. I've heard people say that some non-alcoholic beers these days might have 0% alcohol, and I'm not sure. I did not investigate. I'm just not even interested in finding out. It's just not for me, and that's because of reason number two why I don't drink non-alcoholic beer, which is that alcohol wasn't just a thing that I did in a vacuum. It had so many rituals attached to it, and so did my drug use. And here's what I mean by that. In my early days of drinking, before I drank all day, every day, back in the day, before I got in over my head, I started drinking 2 beers every day with 2 cigarettes. I did it at the end of every day, and not some days or many days. I did it every day. And I told myself that, hey, I had a hard day. My feet hurt sometimes. And what was the harm in a couple of beers and cigarettes, right? Oh, man. So many harms, actually. Not at the beginning, but gradually over time, it got very harmful. Like, first of all, my girlfriend, who's now my wife, she didn't like smoking. So I had to hide that part of it. And I also didn't want her seeing me drink every single day. So I ditched the cans. And so that got me started slowly, just gradually, not super harmful, but slowly, on the idea that a little secret here or there was no big deal. A little lie, what's the harm? The second thing is, it became woven into every day. It was like putting on pants and brushing my teeth in the morning. It was something that I did, and I did it at the end of the day, and I did it every single day. It was a ritual. Long day, cold beers, cigarettes out front of my apartment complex in college. That was how it went. And this was 20 years ago, back before I got into the hardcore drinking and drugging. So at first, I would come home and I would drink, 2 beers over the course of an hour or so right after dinner. And I would put them in the freezer for about 20 minutes each so that they would be absolutely as cold as possible. I put one in for 20 minutes, then pull it out, and then put the other one in the freezer as I drank the first one. Then 20 minutes later, I'd pull out the second one and I would drink that. That's a ritual, it's a part of every day. It's baked into the day. And you can guess how this story progresses. I started drinking the beers closer together to keep the same level of buzz going. Then I started drinking them as fast as possible, basically shotgunning them to make sure they had optimum effect. And then I started thinking, hey, what would be the big deal if I had 3 beers every night instead of 2? It's like, who cares? It's just 3 instead of 2. What's the big deal? Well, it doesn't work that way for addicts like me. This went on and on and on for almost a decade. I added other rituals that always had drugs and alcohol associated with them, like watching football with friends or going to holiday parties. Just more drinking, more secrets, more rituals. Then, obviously, my life became unmanageable and I became powerless over what happened to me after I had even 1 sip of alcohol. And so that brings me back to non-alcoholic beer. I just can't do it. I just can't. I think within 2 weeks, I'd be having my non-alcoholic beer at the end of the day and treating it like a treat. I would be overly excited about it, and then I would be drinking, how about 2 non-alcoholic beers every day? Then I would drink a few extra during big football games, and it just wouldn't end well. It just would keep going and going. How do I know that, you might ask? Well, I just do. I know me, right? Like, I'm a mess. I see it happen with other addictions. I've worked through a pretty nasty soda habit during the pandemic where I was drinking an obscene amount every day. It just was like this reward for a tough time. gave me some energy. I just would, it started as one Diet Coke, and then it was two. Then it was two, but back to back for maximum effect. I would have them at the same time every day, sitting in the same chair with my laptop on my lap. I would look forward to it. So it became ritualized, and it was hard to break, just as alcohol and drugs were. I found that when something is woven into your life like that, whether it's soda or binging TV or in my case, alcohol and drugs, it's really hard to unweave. It's woven in there, man. It's tough. So I'll just quickly talk about solutions that have worked for me. One is a no-brainer, and it applies for me to the non-alcoholic beer thing, which is I just can't do it at all. So the solution is to never start the ritual at all, and I haven't. I just haven't had a non-alcoholic beer since I've been sober. Well, okay, so that's often easier said than done, because I think most people, including me, don't realize something has crept into their lives, because it creeps in, and then it's there. And then you're like, oh my God, I wish I didn't do X, Y, and Z. And for me, I can't even count the number of things this has included besides drugs and alcohol, but definitely drugs and alcohol. It's also included chewing tobacco, soda, quite a bit of food issues, where I found myself doing unhealthy things they started as once in a while, no big deal, and then they became something unhealthy and problematic for me. In that case, I have never had success in just quitting. Just like, okay, on Tuesday, I'm just going to stop. It just didn't work for me. It's really hard. I did, however, have some success replacing the ritual with another ritual that's healthier. And I'll give you an example. I used to hang out with some friends and watch sports and drink and drug and smoke cigarettes all night on Saturday nights. It was almost every Saturday night. It was just like, it was on the calendar. It was going to happen. When I got sober, I still wanted to hang out with them, but I had a hard time sitting in the same seat at my friend's house, watching UFC fights, and just subtracting the drugs and alcohol. It just was all one big thing. And so I had to think about this. And so I started inviting them to my house, instead of theirs. And I found it broke a lot of the mental associations that I had been doing. It impacted the friendships for sure. Like we didn't hang out as much. They weren't always going to come over to my house. But it was a healthy change, and I didn't really do that too much over at their house anymore. And it helped me a lot. I missed it a little bit, but it helped me not drinking drugs. So I think I'm going to have to deploy something like that in my life in the near future when it comes to eating crap at night. I'm really bad after dinner, just slamming food. I look forward to it all day. Like, I eat pretty healthy all day, and it's like, well, I can cut loose a little bit at night. Will it kill me? No, it's not the same as drugging and drinking. It just isn't. But I do feel gross afterward, and I do really want to change it. So I'm going to maybe have to overhaul my post-dinner cookie slamming myself, and we'll see if I can break that ritual. Thank you so much for letting me share.